History is rife with stories of extraordinary individuals who defied their circumstances to achieve greatness. These tales often resonate deeply, capturing our imagination and inspiring us with their demonstration of human resilience, ambition, and fortitude. Among these narratives, few are as fascinating as the story of the slave who rose to become Egypt's king. In a civilization as rigidly hierarchical as ancient Egypt, where the pharaoh was considered a living god and societal mobility was virtually non-existent, the idea of a slave ascending to such power seems almost implausible. Yet, whether based on actual events, embellished legends, or symbolic allegories, this tale has endured, captivating generations with its themes of triumph over adversity and the universal capacity for greatness. To delve into the story of the slave king is to explore not only an extraordinary individual's journey but also the broader social, political, and symbolic context in which it occurred. It requires us to examine the fabric of ancient Egyptian society, the potential historical figures behind the tale, and the profound legacy of this narrative. This exploration will take us on a journey through the corridors of Egyptian history, unraveling the mystery and meaning of this enigmatic rise to power. Ancient Egypt, a society of grandeur and hierarchy. Ancient Egypt stands as one of the most iconic civilizations in human history, a society known for its monumental achievements, intricate governance, and enduring cultural influence. Its towering pyramids, vast temples, and complex belief systems have fascinated scholars and laypeople alike for millennia. Yet, beneath the grandeur lay a society structured on a rigid hierarchy, with power concentrated at the top. At the apex of this societal pyramid was the pharaoh, a figure of immense authority who was believed to be divinely appointed by the gods. The pharaoh was not merely a political leader, but a religious figure, embodying Ma'at, the principle of cosmic order and balance. Surrounding the pharaoh were the elites, nobles, priests, and scribes, who managed the empire's administration, religion, and cultural preservation. Below the elite classes were the merchants, craftsmen, and laborers, whose work sustained Egypt's economy. At the bottom were the slaves, often war captives, debtors, or convicted criminals. They were regarded as property and had few rights, tasked with performing arduous labor in agriculture, construction, and domestic service. This rigid stratification made social mobility exceedingly rare, particularly for those in the lowest classes. The idea of a slave rising to become pharaoh was unthinkable, a challenge to the established order that governed Egyptian life. Unraveling the mystery. Who was the slave king? The identity of the slave who became Egypt's king remains shrouded in mystery, giving rise to numerous theories and interpretations. Some historians and storytellers connect this narrative to actual historical figures, while others argue that it is a symbolic tale, reflecting universal themes of resilience and ambition. Here are some of the possible identities of the enigmatic slave king. The biblical Joseph. One of the most famous accounts of a slave ascending to power in Egypt comes from the Bible. The story of Joseph, sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, depicts a man of extraordinary wisdom and character who rose to become Pharaoh's trusted advisor. Through his interpretation of dreams and foresight during a time of famine, Joseph earned widespread respect and secured his position as a ruler in Egypt. Although Joseph's story is largely regarded as a religious and symbolic narrative, some scholars speculate that it may be loosely inspired by historical events. If true, Joseph's tale underscores the possibility that exceptional individuals could rise above their station in times of crisis. Historical figures, Smenkhare and Ay. Some historians point to enigmatic figures from Egypt's history, such as Smenkhare or Ay, as possible candidates for the slave king. Smenkhare was a pharaoh of the Amarna period whose reign remains poorly documented, while Ay was an elderly advisor who ascended to the throne after Tutankhamun's death. Although Ay was not a slave, his relatively humble origins suggest that the story could have been adapted or embellished over time. A symbolic narrative. It is entirely possible that the tale of the slave king is not based on any specific individual but serves as a symbolic narrative. Ancient societies often used allegories to convey moral lessons or inspire hope, and this story may represent the idea that greatness can arise from the most unlikely circumstances. The path to power, an extraordinary journey. The rise of the slave king would have been an extraordinary journey, requiring a combination of intelligence, resourcefulness, and the ability to seize opportunities in times of crisis. While the specific details of the story are unclear, we can reconstruct a plausible narrative based on historical context. Earning favor in the royal court. Slaves in noble households or the royal court occasionally had access to education and developed relationships with influential patrons. A particularly gifted and charismatic slave might have impressed his superiors with his intellect, earning positions of trust and responsibility. Demonstrating leadership in times of crisis. Egypt faced numerous crises throughout its history, including succession disputes, military invasions, and natural disasters like famines. During such turbulent times, a resourceful and capable individual could rise to prominence. The slave king might have proven his leadership abilities by resolving a critical problem or rallying support in a moment of upheaval. Legitimizing his rule. Once in a position of power, the former slave would have needed to legitimize his rule in the eyes of the populace. Ancient Egyptian rulers often claimed divine favor, presenting themselves as chosen by the gods. The slave king could have framed his rise as part of a divine prophecy, or invoked the principle of Ma'at to justify his sovereignty. Challenges of reigning as a former slave. Ascending to the throne was an achievement in itself, but maintaining power as a former slave would have been an even greater challenge. The new pharaoh would have faced skepticism and resistance from the entrenched elite, who might have viewed him as an outsider and a threat to their privileges. Symbolism and themes of the slave king's tale. The rise of the slave who became Egypt's king transcends historical fact, embodying universal themes that resonate across cultures and eras. At its heart, this story represents the triumph of the human spirit over adversity and the capacity for greatness in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. In ancient Egypt, where the pharaoh was seen as a living god, this narrative carried profound symbolic weight. It challenged the rigid hierarchies of its time, suggesting that destiny and divine favor could overturn societal norms. To the oppressed, it offered hope; to the elite, it served as a cautionary tale. Lessons and legacy. The tale of the slave king endures as a powerful reminder that greatness can emerge from the most unlikely circumstances. It inspires us to look beyond societal boundaries, to recognize the potential for extraordinary achievement in all individuals. Whether rooted in historical fact or myth, the story continues to captivate our imagination, inviting us to reflect on the values of resilience, ambition, and the ability to shape one's destiny. In modern times, this narrative has taken on new layers of meaning, inspiring discussions about social mobility, justice, and leadership. It serves as a timeless testament to the power of determination and the human capacity to rise above adversity. Ultimately, the enigmatic rise of the slave who became Egypt's king is more than just a historical curiosity. It is a symbol of possibility, a story that challenges us to believe in the transformative potential of ambition and resilience. Through its enduring legacy, it reminds us that even the most humble beginnings can lead to greatness, leaving a mark not just on history but on the collective imagination of humanity.